there and consistently there at all those finals is amazing. Let's see what classes each player is bringing then. Rogue banned on both sides, which we do see quite often nowadays, Darok. And those are the remaining classes that are being played. Any initial thoughts from seeing that? Does the Rogue ban interest you at all?
To an extent, yes. Not the fact that Rogue is banned, but the other classes that are brought outside of that does surprise me somewhat. For Coldhands, if he's going for the Zoo Warlock there in that spot, I would usually expect that to be a Murloc Paladin instead, because they function fairly similarly. But I think the Murloc Paladin has got a better shot against some of these slower control decks like Priest and Druid, whereas it's weaker to Rogue. So banning out the Rogue, it makes a little bit more sense to me to bring the Murloc Paladin instead of the Zoo. But then for Mysterious on the other side, he's got Mage, which, although it could be a Tempo Mage, is probably not even an aggressive deck at all.
Yeah, I mean, and you learn from players as well what they like to bring, what they don't like to bring, and as you quite rightly said, not many people knew who Coldhands was before this tournament, or at least they may have known of him, but he hadn't really shown up too much. Whereas Mysterious, there's all this information that Coldhands has now. Right. He can look back, he can look at those previous, does he play aggressive decks, does he play control decks, what does he favour, what's he played in the previous weeks? There's a lot more research to be had, so potentially an advantage there for Coldhands. Maybe he would have been able to get that little bit of an extra step above, but that will remain to be seen. Certainly from what we've seen this season, patterns haven't really emerged for people. I feel like they've changed it up every week to try and be unpredictable.
Yeah, I feel like the easiest player to guess what they were doing was probably George C, just because he was bringing such memorable decks, and there was Fatigue Warrior, Miracle Rogue, Anti-Aggro Control Warlock, really weird stuff. But he was bringing it consistently for the first few weeks, so although it was very weird and kind of hard to tech against, because you knew he was doing it, it was a little bit easier to do so. But here we do see Coldhands with that Zoo Warlock, with the Blood Imp and Blood Fury Potion style of play that we've seen popularized a lot more recently, up against the Quest Mage from Mysterious, so it is definitely a much slower variant.
Yeah, Quest Mage is, I mean, we saw it last week as well, and it worked last week. Right. It was a treacherous game to watch and cast. I didn't do particularly well. Also, Coldhands has the new Warlock hero. That's the first time I've seen that.
That is awesome.
That is actually awesome.
Yeah.
Might just give him MVP already.
For bringing Nemsy.
Just for bringing Nemsy.
Just because he actually went outside the house in the last couple of weeks to a gathering.
To get to a tavern.
That earns you the MVP for friendship.
Because right, you were Sandisk SSD. But he has to win. I tried to give it to someone who lost before and I was told off. They have to be a winner for an MVP, apparently. Well, I think that's wrong.
It's about trying, isn't it?
Exactly. You can be the most valuable player and still lose.
Yeah.
But yes.
Sounds like something a loser would say.
It does. I have been a loser for my whole life. But Coldhands, this is kind of a weird Warlock deck as well, right? I mean, the Blood Fury Potion is something we've seen more and more of. It definitely helps with an aggressive variant, but this is more of a control sort of Warlock, right? Or do you think this is more of a Zoo aggro version?
I think this is pretty much the aggro Zoo version. It's weird because Blood Fury Potion kind of saw a spike when it first started becoming a thing, because it was the spicy new inclusion to put in the Zoo Warlock. But it's kind of dropped off a lot more recently. People have kind of gone with the consistency of just playing good stuff on curve and putting Blood Imp in your deck. Like, it's kind of cute, but it's not actually that good, and it kind of fills up your board with rubbish demons when you're playing the Blood Reaver Gul'dan later on. So to be honest, I am a bit surprised to see it, but there have been several notable players who do favour this version.
Of course, aggressive decks can work very well against Quest Mage.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're going to get past Quest Mage, usually the aggressive decks do that for you. However, the tools like Blizzard, any Frost Novas, if you can freeze a big old board and you can delay your opponent for maybe 2-3 turns, sometimes it is enough time to be able to get those Sorcerer's Apprentices out and get that wombo combo on the go.
Very true, but I like this from Coldhands. He's exploiting the main weakness of Quest Mage in the early stages of the game, which is, while, as you said, they do have all the freezes, where they differ from the Control Mages and the Jaina Mages is they don't have any instant single target removal. They don't have Frostbolt, Medivh's Valet, Fireball, Firelands Portal. So cards with active effects like Fandral, Gadgetzan Auctioneer, and the Flappy Bird we see here can actually start to snowball very, very quickly because there is no immediate response. So a taunt or removal in the form of Soulfire or Voidwalker can do an amazing job of allowing this Vicious Fledgling to just really go off.
I was going to say, at what point did Vicious Fledgling just become Flappy Bird everywhere? I hear everyone just calling it Flappy Bird nowadays. And it's Gotta go back to the roots, man.
Yeah, I preferred Pink Bird, actually,
Yeah,
the original
I like
meme. That was a good
Pink
one.
Dino Bird.
Pink Dino Bird.
But Wind Fury, very important for Coldhands, of course. I mean, it's what you want at any point with Vicious Fledgling, but especially against a deck like Quest Mage, where you really need to burst them down ASAP. And that's why Coldhands is taking the initiative here, using that Soulfire to get rid of any minions on the board for Mysterious, just so that he can try and secure this damage from the Vicious Fledgling to the face consistently and try and win this game in, what, 2 turns, potentially?
I mean, it's probably not going to happen quite that aggressively because the Blizzard is going to come down and at least delay what's going on. The Cone of Cold is also going to delay what's going on. That is an amazing card to get off of the Primordial Glyph there. It means that the things actually die to Blizzard, and the Vicious Fledgling can't get out of range with something like Health or Divine Shield now.
Now, Doomguard off the top, instantly, Coldhands is hovering over that because it's so tempting to push 5 extra damage to the face, especially when your whole board's frozen, because otherwise it feels like you miss a turn if you're just developing. And what's the alternative? You put a Dreadlord on the board, it does nothing. Next turn, there is the Blizzard turn, it might just get frozen as well, and then it goes into a Flame Strike potential turn, and then you're just losing everything and not putting any damage here. But you are potentially tossing away a lot of damage if you do play the Doomguard.
It's really tough, actually, because this board, actually, if there is a Blizzard in hand, even without the Dreadlord, it would probably come down here just to kill off the Fledgling, because it is too scary. It has to die immediately, or the Mage will just be run over. So throwing out a minion at all there and not tapping, it's probably right, because it still does keep the pressure going, and you've got a good amount of value in your hand anyway. But it was definitely worth considering just saving back your resources a bit more and just trying to pool more damage in your hand. But at the same time, if you're taking a really slow approach against Quest Mage, you will just find yourself, as you said, being the full combo very early on. Yeah,
and now you're in the same position as well. You're saying, do I have to play this Doomguard? I'm maybe tossing away a Bone Mare, which is of course such an influential card, but the Bone Mare stays, which is actually probably the best result for him.
That's pretty nuts, considering all the discard effects that have happened. This one determined little bone horse.
Why don't I just call it a Bone Mare?
Oh, it's a horse as well, isn't it?
Well, it's a dead horse, isn't it?
Tell you what, mate, you're a bit of a mare.
Yeah,
a nightmare.
Don't you start all this. No, you do not get a ding for that one. You've missed it, haven't you? You've had 1 week away, and all you can think about is the banter bell.
I know. I'm getting the itches, the cold sweats. I need my ding.
I tell you what, I'll bring the banter bell closer to me. So if you say anything hilarious, I'll give you a nice ding dong. All right? There we go. It's okay, general public. We have settled the Darrock down.
Ooh, okay.
Another Doomguard available now for Coldhands as well, but I imagine the Bone Mare is going to be an instant snap onto the board here. Does Blood Fury change it, though?
But is it, though?
Yeah, Blood Fury, I mean...
Yeah, I think it probably is still Bone Mare. It secures up your board, but the thing is... The only thing that's going to clear your board from this point on is Doomsayer. And you're not really even afraid of that. It's kind of getting to the point where the Mage is conceding. They're never going to get the board clear. They're likely just going to be clearing they're just going to be freezing each turn and hoping they find their combo in time. So just getting the highest amount of damage on board, and given that Bone Mare represents 9 attack, yeah, probably worth it considering you're not even discarding anything. Yeah,
and Mysterious is quite far away from that combo. Only has, what, 1, maybe 2 of those. Oh, he's got 2 Molten Reflections. He's got the Simulator. Like, he's got the Sim in the hand as well, so there is potential there. He just needs that Sorcerer's Apprentice to come out soon.
Yeah.
Archmage as well.
That's the thing. Well, I was going to say he only needs an Apprentice and an Antonidas, but he also needs to complete the quest, and he also needs to dump these other 2 drops from his hand, because if that doesn't happen, Simulacrum would then be a lower chance. It would be a chance risking the game, because you might not copy the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Speaking of risking the game, do you go Doomguard, hope you don't discard the Blood Fury potion, and try and kill off this Doomsayer, or is that well too much of a risk?
So it's a 33.3 recurring, of course,
yes.
percent chance to kill off the Doomguard. Sorry, the Doomsayer with your Doomguard. Oh, man. The Doomsayer was just exactly the card that was needed for Mysterious. Because I was saying that's the only way that the board gets cleared, and it's likely going to happen now. You can't tap beforehand. Both Soulfires have been played, so you can't even tap into Soulfire. I think he's just going to pray.
Go for it. Just pray. Cross your fingers.
Oh my god, he nails it!
Well. So that's both his Doom Guards this game have just left him with the perfect card. And somehow Coldhands is surviving here.
Oh my days.
If there are any gods watching, they are definitely helping Coldhands at the moment.
It's not over though. There's some pretty good options here for Mysterious. You can just Blizzard now as well as a Novice Engineer. Maybe though, because you've seen both Doom Guards and both Soulfires, being at 1 health is actually probably quite safe. So I think going for the Ice Block here, I actually quite like. It's going for the Blizzard as well, though.
That's the thing, Ice Block and Blizzard, they're both doing the same thing, essentially.
And you can load them up on the same turn, but going for something like Ice Block, double Novice Engineer, maybe I would have liked a bit more, because it means on the following turn, you can just, if you get a Novice Engineer, you can start to go off with that 100% and not have to spend the 4 mana on Novice Engineers. But, you know, this does still... it's a turn you're buying yourself with the Blizzard and a turn you're buying yourself with the Ice Block. So it works out in very much the same way, I think.
Oh, Frosting over there as well. I mean,
fantastic draw.
They all come trickling in, don't they? There are so much delaying effect, and there's a key piece to the puzzle as well being drawn.
Tony.
So this is as soon as you think you've got the upper hand against Quest Mage,
it's a nightmare.
They just reel you back in and they say, no, actually, we've got all these stall effects that I think you've forgotten about, and that's going to help him complete the quest as well.
It is just an apprentice now, I think, that he needs. It's going to be... the Simulacrum and the way it works out with Apprentice, you can do it all in 1 turn, follow up with Antonidas and Kabbalist Tome, and very likely just win the game on the spot.
I also want to point out how pumped Coldhands was when he got that 33% discard with Doomguard. Like, he was there, he was just swaying from side to side. The amount of energy just going through him was, well, you could just physically see it, which I think is an amazing thing about Hearthstone when you play it competitively. It's so different. So much of a different experience when you play it on ladder.
Yep.
Like, when you're on ladder and something like that happens, you'll be like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But when it happens in tournament play...
it's so much more.
You just get pumped, man.
Especially in a tournament like this. Like, this is why I love the Prem so much, is because it's open sign-up. Like, anyone can give it a go. And all 3 of the previous champions in Ball Control, Jamboree and Green Sheep, all valued members of the UK Hearthstone community, well-known names and very respected players. For Coldhands, if he got that title himself, it would be such a boon to his career as a player. And that is a great way to kind of get himself a little bit closer, because that is 2 probably unplayable cards in Glacial Mysteries and Meteor.
Yeah, I don't really need those. They can just sit there, I guess. But at least he's got another Kabbalist Tome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just cards that you can't play just to tick up your counter. Even if they did nothing at all, you'd rather they just cost 3 or 4 mana.
Yeah, that's absolutely... correct. Going back to that point as well about those influential players that are within the community. I mean, Coldhands, he's beaten Ness, he's beaten Lemon, lost to Dan, I think it was, on week 1.
Right.
So he's beaten some big names already,
Absolutely.
especially with Ness being eliminated. And going up against Mysterious, a man that has made finals every time, I mean, of course you're going to get excited if you think you've got the chance of beating him and getting to live finals yourself. I mean, it's a free ticket to come to a tournament where you're fed, you're homed. Like, that experience is a very unique experience in esports, and I don't think many people get to have that.
Yeah, I think Coldhands could do with a bit of fattening up as well. He looks a bit...
I can't really say that, can I? I'm the skinniest guy going.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
But, I think he looks great.
Yeah, I think he does. I think that was my granny speaking there. Just ignore me.
I hate it when old people do that. So
Possess you.
Yeah.
Stupid idiots.
Only 2 of the 6 spells that have been completed so far for the quest for Mysterious.
Man!
Yeah.
That is the worst 3 combinations. That is so expensive. You just want anything that's playable. I mean, after you've played 4, maybe 5 apprentices on your turn when you go off, the Meteor becomes playable, but the Glacial Mysteries and Greater Arcane Missiles, it's very possible they will just never get played, which means the second Kabbalist Tome has to be good enough.
Has to give you an ice block as well, potentially, at this point.
Right, yep.
Because otherwise, you're just going to be smushed into the ground by the new Warlock hero. I haven't heard any emotes yet, which actually makes me quite sad.
Well, when I said, that's awesome at the start, her infamous one is that was awesome, is what she says when you go, wow.
Wow.
I think it is. I haven't unlocked it. I don't think I have any
I lost you for a second there.
Yeah, I know. I was going to take a sip of water and kind of the wires got
realised you
crossed
were
for a
talking.
second there.
Yeah. I hate when that happens as well. When you forget you're talking, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like we pay you to talk or anything, is it?
I'm going to sip my water now. I'm not even going to mute.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Just what I like. It's a very simple play for Coldhands. It's now just a case of keep battering him down and hope there's nothing. But there's the first Sorcerer's Apprentice, so...
You just go. You just go off here and you pray you get it done. Maybe you get an AI off the Cabalist Tome. I don't know what the number is on the quest counter, if I'm perfectly honest.
I believe it's 3.
3? Yeah, okay. I think it's about 3, which means after you play the second Cabalist Tome, if all of them are playable, you can then complete the quest, and you would have a spell. The Arcane Missiles would be down to 3 mana, which means it could be played on the same turn as Antonidas in order to get yourself the Fireball.
It's one of those situations as quest mage where you do just have to suck it up and go for it, because you're only out otherwise is getting an Ice Block, right? So you play it first and you go for this.
Yeah. So clearly he's done the math, because if you go Simulacrum Apprentice, then that's 5 mana. Reflections would be 3. You wouldn't have the mana to play Cabalist Tome afterwards.
I mean, you've run out of time either way.
I think he was just dead. Actually, yeah, looking at it now, going with the Simulacrum first, that's really a card that has to be played beforehand, because if you're playing the full 3 mana just for a Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then you have to play it as well, you just don't really have the time in order to do that. It's a little bit awkward there. And
really important as well, getting that victory for Warlock against the Quest Mage, because now Coldhands can look at the rest of his lineup and say, all right, I know I'm going against Quest Mage. I know now whether I'm favoured of beating that matchup again with my other deck. So he'll feel slightly confident going 1-0 up, but of course, 1-0 is far from getting to those live finals. It can be very quickly turned around when it is in the Conquest format. But Mysterious, he has the same old decision, the age-old decision of, well, what do I play now? Do I play the same, or do I choose something else? And, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess there is some sort of theory crafting behind it, but usually it's just the old... Have you ever heard a dice that rolls like that, or a die that rolls like that?
No.
That would just be a block of wood, really, wouldn't it?
Like some old runic bones or something.
Yeah, it just bounces once and just lands on the same side every time. That would be an easy way to decide which deck to pick for Conquest, to be honest.
What, just
yeah, it always has 1 on it, or yeah, it always has Rogue on it. But what if you don't bring Rogue? See?
Instant concede.
Then it's out the window, on the floor.
It's so loud in my ears, Dan. I'm trying to play along with this joke, but my little old... my little cochlears.
Cockney?
Cochlears?
I thought you said Cockney. I was like, all right, mate.
You're all right, mate.
What, from London?
Your ears hurt or something?
Yeah, just a little bit.
You little muppet.
Right, so Coldhands is going to try with his own mage this time, and Mysterious will switch over to the priest.
Yeah. So from Coldhands here, I've got to be honest, I'm very surprised he didn't bring Murloc Paladin in the place of either Zoo or the Tempo Mage. If he's bringing Tempo Mage, I can understand him bringing the Zoo, but I would rather he play Murloc Paladin instead of this Tempo Mage. I don't think it's a particularly strong deck at the moment, if I'm honest.
However,
it might get the job done here, because this is a blooming power turn and a half for the next few turns.
Yeah, and because he's just played Quest Mage, he might have an idea of Mysterious having quite a control-heavy lineup here. And it looks like Coldhands has gone for the more aggressive lineup, which can typically do very well against the likes of Quest Mage. So maybe that's why that victory meant so much for Coldhands in that first game, because that Quest Mage is still there and still has to get a victory against his aggro lineups.
And to Coldhands' credit, I'm saying you should bring Murloc Paladin because you can load it up at the top end with Tyrion, Spikeridge Steed, Rag Light Lord if you want to, like Team LUL did, in order to beat Priest and Druid. But here Coldhands is doing a similar thing with his Tempo Mage, with 2 Hydras and at least 1 Scalebane, very possibly 2. It's going to be so difficult for the Priest to deal with this, because there's no Anduin to deal with it at all, even if it could come down now. Only 1 Shadow Word Death. I don't know, I think it might just be too many threats coming down, especially as there is the counter spell as well. And all of the spells here kind of want to be played.
Tempo Mage does typically play a lot of secrets, really. And it is very frustrating when you are going up against it, and one that you know full well one of those could be a counter spell. Yeah. It's so painful. Even Spellbender could do the same job as well, especially when it comes to that Shadow Word Pain. Yeah. Mysterious is struggling a little bit here already. And it might be very important these Hydras just slam down and deal damage. Of course, we can see Mysterious does have the Shadow of Death that can deal with one of them. But multiple large answers can be difficult until that turn 8 when the Shadow Reaper is available.
Really, really tough turn. The rest of this turn here for Mysterious as well, because he kind of wants to save the Pyro and the Power Word Shield just to do a little bit of board sweeping on what comes down for Coldhands, because it could be Babbling Book, Mana Worm, Medivh's Valet on the following turn here for Coldhands, or Sorcerer's Apprentice, stuff like this, in which case, you know, you really want to have those board sweeps to be able to clear it off. I guess he has the Shadow Word Horror in order to be able to deal with most of that. So I can understand going with this route instead.
Yeah, but Coldhands now is just putting the big boys on the table. There is the answer from Mysterious, but it does kind of soak up his turn. Yeah. I suppose you could combine it with the Pyromancer to get extra damage on your opponent. Does it still work like that? Does it damage the Hydra first, or does it damage it after? I think it damages it after, doesn't it? Yeah. So it doesn't even damage it.
No damage at all, just dead.
Just dead. Just big old DED dead. But what it does do is keep something on the board that competes with Coldhands and forces an answer.
Yeah, this is a bit tough, actually. I guess you can go Mana Worm, Apprentice, Ping. This is kind of the one of the things I wanted to point out in the last turn, is that in Tempo Mage, you very often put in Bittertide Hydra instead of Scalebanes at all, because you're not going to have minions on the board going into turn 5. And so because Coldhands had the luxury of having 2 minions on the board there, to be honest, I was expecting the Cobalt Scalebane to come down there instead of the Bittertide Hydra, because if the Shadow of Death comes down, it's fine. You've spread out your resources a bit more, and you've still got a good amount of attack on the board. I think given that we can see Shadow of Death and Wild Pyro still in the hand for Mysterious, there is a slight spectator issue here, and we might have to switch over to the secondary view. But for the moment, it's looking good now for Coldhands, because the Shadow Word Death is now taken care of. And so this second Bittertide Hydra, this is definitely the prime spot for it to come down, because answers are pretty much out of the way. The only real contestation to this can be something like Raz of the Chain for the moment, just to hopefully try and kill it off with minion combat, which, to be honest, feels pretty lackluster.
Yeah, and we're going back to that point as well. You were talking about the Scalebane. I guess the reasoning for keeping it a little bit longer is because of Dragonfire Potion, maybe putting it on the board later, and then leaving something after the Dragonfire Potion comes down, getting rid of those Shadow Word Deaths early so that they can't target it with that. Maybe. At
the same time, though, Hydra also survives Dragonfire Potion, and you don't want to be spreading out your stats to the other minions on a Dragonfire Potion turn. So I think overall it definitely made more sense to me to go for the Cobalt Scalebane. You are more vulnerable to Organize Circle, I guess, but that would be pretty bad anyway.
And yeah, we're just going to switch over to Coldhands' point of view, because Mysterious's hand was a little bit bugged when you were probably looking at it saying, why is he not just Shadow Word Deathing?
Big dum-dum.
Doesn't have 2 of them. It is Highlander Priest.
I mean, that's basically why people are putting in the Wasps, isn't it, into Highlander Priest. It's becoming more and more popular, especially with players like Sho and Tyler singing the praises of Curator in Highlander Priest, with going for Deathwing in some cases as the dragon, and the Tidecaller as well.
Or
the Oracle, sorry.
Sho and Tyler singing anything, I'd probably want to see it.
I'd want to see that.
Doesn't even matter if it's not even singing about a Hearthstone deck. They could be singing Beyonce. I'd be there in a snap of my fingers.
They could be singing Beyonce, as in like, oh, I'd even watch that. I would literally chop my leg off to watch that.
Literally? Literally. Okay, right. I'm going to get in contact with some of those players and see whether you follow up on that.
I think you should get in contact with a therapist.
Yeah, maybe. That's a lot. That's a big commitment just to see someone sing Beyonce. A Beyonce concert, however, not interested. Wouldn't even chop off a nail.
Wouldn't even trim.
Not even a shave.
If I looked at a pair of nail clippers, I'd be sick on them. In protest of the Queen.
So Coldhands has done quite a bit of damage here, and this Hydra is pretty awkward. You've got Dragonfire Potion, which has now what? A poor effect, because he has saved the thingy-majiggy. That's his name. What is it called? Dragon. I've completely forgot the dragon's name. Scalebane. I was going to call him Dragon Scale.
You can just call him Fat Dragon.
Fat Dragon. Fat blue dragon with a sword thing. Yeah, of course.
You're right, mate. Scalebane had a day off, so it's me, Fat Blue Dragon with a sword.
The funny thing is, there's one in his hand as well, so I could have just read it, but, you know.
Well, that's the easy way, isn't it?
Exactly. You just got to test yourself sometimes.
And fail miserably at those tests.
And everyone can laugh and sap me. But you know what? I like being sapped.
So, the main thing here for Coldhands is Anduin. That's what he's afraid of, and because of that, he can't really go for Scalebane because it would just be too devastating. If he goes Cobalt and either of his 2-drops, there's a very high chance that that will be buffed up as well, and then that will die also. Maybe because of that, he goes for the Firelands Portal and prays he gets a 4-attack minion, something in that kind of range. Because then, I mean, if he does have Anduin, that's still pretty terrible, and there's a good chance you get a 5-attack minion.
Why would he want a 4-attack minion, Darren?
Because, once again, priests can't deal with 4-attack minions. Oh, it's been too long.
Correct. You get 1 star. But yeah, this is why he's gone for the lower end minions, just in case Anduin is there. But, for once, Anduin isn't there on turn 8 for a priest, unless...
Oh, we must have a spectator bug then, if Anduin's not there on it.
Yeah, we need to check this out. Can someone take a look? But I would have been interested in the Firelands Portal as well, but I think just sinking the damage in now...
This is definitely the way to go.
But Holy Fire is going to get spellbended. Coldhands throws his hands aloft, and that will mean he's going to take a 2-0 advantage.
And based on a single game sample size, I've kind of got to, you know, give my respect to Coldhands for bringing the Tempo Mage. I was down on it at the start. I don't think it's the best deck to bring to a format at the moment, but it's performing well here. And I think if you are going to bring it, he's built it exactly how you want to do it. You want to be doing it to have a decent shot against the aggressive decks because you've still got Mana Worm, Frostbolt, and the Primordial Glyphs. But if you've got 4 5-drops, the 4 powerhouses in Hydras and Scalebanes, I think you've got a really good shot, as we saw, of beating Druids and Priests.
Now, he still has a Priest remaining, doesn't he,
I believe
Coldhands?
so.
So that kind of switches up with the idea of having these aggressive decks that are going to work against the control decks, because now a Priest, I mean, that is just a control deck, right? So he might suffer here against something like a Quest Mage, potentially. However, winning 1 game out of 3 with Priest, with how strong Priest is at the moment, I think you're in a good position.
I think you're in a good spot. Having said that, if Coldhands has not teched his deck to deal with the mirror, as we're seeing more and more decks going for the Auctioneer as well as Lyra the Sunshard, just to give yourself a really good shot against Priest and Druid. If he hasn't gone for that route, he might find himself unfavored in the mirror and in the against the Druid, but it appears we might have had a slight miscuing of the deck there.
Which would make more sense, wouldn't it?
And this makes a lot of sense, because I was ragging on him for not bringing Murloc Paladin, but he did.
But he did bring Murloc Paladin.
So please ignore all the criticism I made of you, Coldhands. You're
a god.
God amongst men.
We love you. And your Murloc Paladin is aggressive, is going to be very good against these control decks of Mysterious.
Oh, yeah.
And now actually potentially in a better position, so... Definitely. Yeah, all that conversation was for nothing, but...
Way better position.
Yeah.
Priest was, you know, it's bad against Quest Mage, it's kind of bad against Druid, and it's medium against Priest, obviously, because it's a mirror. But the Paladin here, it's good against Quest Mage, it's good against Druid, and it's pretty good against Priest if you build it in the right way.
Well, and it was a really nice start for Coldhands, actually. It would have been perfect, but that Holy Smite coming in just on time for Mysterious. Another reason why it is in the deck, because it can just help tailor against those aggro matchups, not just as an extra spell for Anduin later on. And now you've got the situation of, well, do I play Rockpool Hunter just for the body, or do I really want that buff?
Well, the thing is, you'd be wasting 1 mana on 2 turns in a row if you go with this line of play, which means you're losing out on a hero power, because if you go with the other line of play, you can go Rockpool Hunter and then Tidecaller hero power. But with this line of play, you're getting an extra +1/+1 because of the effect on Rockpool Hunter, and you're getting an extra 1 attack on the Tidecaller anyway because you're playing another Murloc. So I think even though you're wasting mana, because of the inherent synergy of playing Murlocs together, it works out anyway.
Yeah, now you are going to get that value from the Rockpool Hunter. But,
I think you go Blade.
I think you Blade, actually, because you're just going to trade it off anyway, and you have a target for Blessing of Kings again.
Yeah, Blessing of Kings is a great card to throw down here. If they go for the Shadow Word Death, whatever. Who cares? They've used Shadow Word Death on a 1-mana minion with a crown on it.
And once again, There is a spectator bug, I believe. Yeah, because the hand looks a bit weird. But Hydrologist coming out with a secret. We did miss that one, what it was. So we'll get that checked. What it were.
What are we in the rainforest? Because there's a lot of bugs around here. Oh, just swatted a mosquito on my face.
Got him. No.
That's a good joke.
Yeah, but was it a bell joke?
I think it was a bell joke.
Right, okay. You got a mini...
It was just a little ding, wasn't it? Though?
Yeah, a little dong.
When it comes to Darab Brown,
he's got a little dong.
It's always a little dong. I mean, you didn't have to...
What?
No, okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's Kazakis showing up just on time. Or is he? Because the thing is, what are you going to do? Create a 5-cost spell? Deal 4 damage?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That sounds pretty good to me. You're saying that like it's a bad thing. I don't get the inflection in your voice here.
Is it going to be enough? Because you could Blessing of Kings this big old Murloc. And even now, actually, Rockball Hunter puts it out of range, doesn't it? Yeah. That's why I had the, like, is 4 enough?
Yeah.
Because you might just be out of range with either Blessing or the Rockball.
Well, if Mysterious had the foresight here to pick plus just to go for the 5 damage straight up, then it will be able to kill off the Tide Call here, which is far and away the most important thing to kill off. Because then on one of the following turns, you can just Pint-Sized Potion, Shadow Word Horror to clear up everything else.
But I feel like if he had picked that, he would have already played the card.
I think that's probably true as well.
So now he's saying, oh dear, I'm in trouble. I'm about to lose this one, and Coldhands is about to go towards the final unless I can do anything very quickly. Because I'm slowly running out of options here. But what options do you have? Let's say, so what is it? Polymorph around the minion. Go for the 50-50.
No way!
Well, Coldhands, I guess you've had quite a lot of luck in the previous 2 games with your discarding, so...
It's worked out even better than if he'd gone for the 5 damage because the Hydrologist is still alive. And I guess even if he had missed, he still had that out of exactly silence to bring the Tidecaller down to just a measly 1-2.
What a moment for Mysterious, potentially keeping him in this series. Without it, could have looked very drastic. That could have been GG, no re, and Coldhands could have been on his way to the finals. It's still looking...
actually, it's not looking all too good for Coldhands. Now that the Pint-Sized and Shadow Word Horror comes down, all of a sudden, you know, Mysterious will have a pretty clear board going into a Prophet Velen turn. He can just throw that down onto the board and heal himself up for 4 every turn. Holy Fire will deal 10 and heal for 10. That's basically just lethal on board.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any real response from Coldhands either. It's going to be turn 7, so you can't even draw into something like a Tyrion to help you out.
Curator, maybe?
I don't even know if that saves you at that point, to be honest. And it all comes down to that 50-50 as well. That's why Mysterious took so long. I mean, we were saying, is it deal 5 damage? Is it deal 4 damage to all minions? Naturally, you'd take a while if it wasn't those, but he weighed up his options, wondered if there was anything else, and now Coldhands is getting bitten a little bit by Lady Luck. She's having a nibble on him, and he's not enjoying it. He's told her to go home.
It's just a bit like, you know, I'm trying to have a night with my friends, Lady Luck.
Stop it, all right?
Just later, Lady Luck.
He already had his fun with Lady Luck earlier on, didn't he?
Yeah, that's
when he was discarding the Doom Guard, Lady Luck was well and truly...
He's woken up, rolled over, and she's not looking so hot.
No. Send her home.
Get her an Uber.
And now, unless you're in London, get her a taxi.
Oh, yeah, you got to support the Black Cabs.
Oh, they banned it for a while, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah. You not know this?
No.
Yeah, they banned Uber in London.
Wow.
Yeah. I would say other mobile apps to get you to places are available, but I don't think there are.
I think there might
Except
be.
just taxi apps.
You could Deliveroo yourself.
There was a thing in the news lately about a guy that went to a takeaway, bought a takeaway to his house and got a lift in because there was no taxis available outside the nightclub.
That's very clever.
Genius. Meanwhile, Hearthstone is happening. I think the reason why I'm kind of going a little bit all over the place and I'm not really talking about this game is because I think it's close to being over. However, the spell did make a difference. The Repentance made Mysterious hesitant. He didn't want to play the Prophet Velen. So that's why he's tossed out the Novice Engineer here.
I mean, you could look at this and say, well, it didn't do anything because it reduced a 1 health minion down to 1 health. But as you said, the fact that the Prophet Velen couldn't come down here, maybe it wouldn't have come down anyway because there's a fair amount of damage on the board. But like you said, just that it's a slightly weak play in terms of stats on the board.
This game's not over.
It's not over. But it's still looking good for Mysterious. There's the Spike Ridge Steed, which is probably going to have to be used to kill off the Lyra, which means all of a sudden there's not too much damage being pushed to face. Then the Silence can deal with that very effectively, whilst the Prophet Velen comes down at the same time. And then on the following turn, Holy Fire, Mind Blast will close out the game, unless once again something pretty impressive can come down.
It's not over till Lady Luck sings. Is that right? Is she the same lady?
I think, yeah, you're crossing it.
Are they not the same?
Lady Luck fat as well.
Well, she can be. When she's not being nice to you, she's eating too much. You said Coldhands needs to eat more, so Lady Luck's having a nibble and also trying to feed him pie. How do you feel about that now?
This is like some weird Eddie Izzard sketch where I just have like no idea what's going on anymore.
Good. I'm glad I make you feel uncomfortable. That is my goal in life. But I'm saying it was not over because I was thinking Coldhands was going to push all the damage to face and just leave Lyra there. I know it's a risque kind of thing to do, but then you've got Blessing of Kings in your hand.
Yeah, maybe that is your one out, because the thing is your opponent's got so many cards in hand that they're very likely going to be able to abuse the effect off of Lyra quite impressively. But the thing is they're also just going to be able, even if you don't go all face, they're just going to be able to wrestle back the board anyway, and then you'll never close out the game.
Mysterious is being very, very patient about what he kills off here, though. Giving Coldhands this... He seems to be giving him a chance every turn.
Well, the thing is, what else would he have gone for? If he had gone for Velen and the Silence there instead, with this Blessing of Kings, there would have been a way to kill it off. Which probably would have led to a win anyway, but I think this also still leads to a win, because if the Wild Pyromancer is left up, your board will probably just be swept after a heal and a couple of spells comes down. And so it's going to have to be more damage traded in.
And Mysterious does have the Death as well that's available to kill off this 6/6. But Coldhands has managed to batter down Mysterious to quite a low health here, but I think Mysterious is going to be more than happy, especially with Holy Fire still there as well, even after the Shadow Word Death. So, yeah, Coldhands looking like he's going to lose his first game of the series, unless Mysterious does something really dumb. And for a man who's made it to every ESL Premiership finals, I expect him not to do that.
He's not a dumb man.
No. He's actually was one of my favourite players, certainly during Season 1.
Right.
Because he kind of... well, there was the meme that he was Mysterious because he had a webcam and it was really close to his face and you could just literally see his forehead. So that was a bit of a meme, Mysterious being Mysterious. That was the whole Season 1
Right, okay.
thing.
That sounds really funny.
It was.
That sounds
bloody hilarious.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I know.
He's called Mysterious.
I know.
And he is.
I'm so glad you get it. Oh, we're like two peas in a pod, you and me. If the peas were mouldy. Mysterious doesn't even have a webcam now, by the way.
In a grotty pod.
So I'm actually quite disappointed. There was controversy while you were away last week. Or I am being told Mysterious does have a webcam, but it's just frozen. So Mysterious being Mysterious ways, there he is! Yes! I'm so glad. And he's got his M&M hoodie on as well.
The really mysterious thing is, it's not frozen.
He's just that.
He's very concentrating.
I love that. Now, Coldhands can stall a little bit here with this Bone Mare and Grimscale Chum. And for him, he's just seen what? He's just seen the death. So he's saying, okay, I'm still in this. This isn't a concede-worthy point.
Yeah.
However, Anduin could be there.
I mean, for Coldhands, it needed to be, like, this isn't going to win him the game, but it needed to be Tyrion right away, basically. Because if Tyrion comes down, even if it's cleared off, maybe a couple of attacks in with the Ashbringer will be enough to close out the game if your opponent doesn't have any healing. But with just going for the Bone Mare here, you're making a couple of 5/5s. But the Holy Fire is going to be able to basically clear up all of that in combination with the minions. And you can even Shadow Vision for something like a Dragonfire Potion if you need that as well.
Holy Fire should be fine here. I mean, there's no way of lethal, is there, with Holy Fire and Mind Blast mixed with something? No. Not just yet, anyway. So maybe you could go with Radiant Elemental into Shadow Visions first, then if you need to, just use one of those Holy Fires. But you do still need to kill off the other 5/5.
Well, that's why I'm thinking maybe you go for Shadow Visions into Dragonfire Potion is something worth considering. You clear off most of your own board, but at the same time, you get the opponent's board clear, and then maybe if they can't reload again, you can just go for Velen into Mind Blast and all that stuff. But then I think that leaves you very open to Tyrion Fordring because you don't have any things on the board. So I think, thinking about it again, that's probably a losing line to go down. Spirit Lash is the way to go. Draws you cards, makes the trades work out so much nicer, and you can fit in a Holy Fire. This is the situation you want to be in. Now it feels like a no-lose situation.
Yeah, it was looking a little bit dicey at times.
Yeah.
Looking like there was a way that maybe Coldhands could have snuck in there if Mysterious didn't find a spell that would have helped him out with that situation. But Coldhands is trying his best to hang on in. I mean, when you 2-0 up and you're still drawing cards and your opponent's not really threatening you, I guess why not just stick in there in case something crazy does happen. Allow your... It's a bit like tennis, right? You just stick in there and hope that your opponent makes a mistake, even though you know he's better than you, he's fitter than you. A bit like Rafael Nadal. You don't know.
You played Rafael Nadal, is that? Well, when I was playing, me and Rafa's, when we were having a bout of tennis.
Just a knock around, me and him, down the park. Good friend of mine, actually.
Really?
When I was living in Spain. It's never happened, by the way, if you hadn't guessed.
You surprised me.
Yeah. I like to keep you on your toes, just like I do with Rafa.
With Rafa's always on his toes, darting around like a nimble little squirrel.
Squirrel's a really bad way of describing someone who's nimble.
They're really nimble.
So's Jack, but, you know. No?
No.
Okay. But Mysterious is just now going through the motions, just doing what he can to stay alive, and that is going to be 2-1. Yep. Concede now for Coldhands. Mysterious still alive in this series, and thank God the concede come through, because otherwise more stories of tennis players probably would have happened, and that would have not been a good situation for any of you at home, because I only know 3 tennis players.
3?
I actually know a lot more, but regardless, Mysterious back in it now. There is a chance, but now we know that it is Murloc Paladin as the last deck. How do you feel like the rest of the series is going to go on? We still have that Quest Mage left there as well.
Well, sometimes you find yourself in a situation in tournaments where one player has only got to win 1 game, where the other player has to win 2. But the player who only has to win 1 game has 2 unfavorable matchups. This is not the case here. Coldhands has 2 pretty favorable matchups, I would say. If it is a Jade Druid from Mysterious, he's going to be spending his early turns ramping up his mana, which means the Murlocs can run absolutely wild. It's kind of like what you're trying to do with the Temper Rogue with your Pirates, but you do it way better because you can have more Murlocs in your deck than you can have Pirates. And against the Quest Mage, it's kind of a similar thing. They're obviously not ramping, but they're kind of just spending their early turns drawing and generating with Babbling Book and the Arcane Intellects and things like that. So I think the Paladin Coldhands is still in with a really, really good shot of qualifying through.
He is, and I mean, I think I asked you this a couple of weeks ago about Murloc Paladin as well. We expected it to not be this good after the nerf that happened onto War Leader, but it's just proved how crazy War Leader was before.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. The fact that this deck still now exists with War Leaders there, but it's still surviving. People are still loving it. I mean, we look at the UK players. Jambray still loves it. Jambray's gone now. Not like that. He's just out of the tournament, so just a moment of silence for Jambray. There we go. That's enough for him. But it is a shame that he is eliminated. But yeah, Murloc Paladin's still there. It's still alive. It's still kicking. But I wonder how that's going to transition into like maybe the next meta shift, whether it's still going to survive, are there going to be cards that are going to counteract that? That remains to be seen. I just don't know what Mysterious is going to do here with Mage or Druid, because you've got to play a very aggressive playstyle with defensive decks.
Right, yeah.
Which is a bit weird, right? You're in an awkward spot.
Well, the thing is, so with the Druid, you can get yourself a very powerful couple of turns by basically you just want to be ramping up as much as you possibly can, because you are going to be losing the early game. Maybe you can slow down how much you're going to be losing by with cards like Wrath or Swipe, but you are going to be seceding the board at some point. So you want to be ramping up to either Spreading Plague and Mark of the Lotus or just Ultimate Infestation as quickly as possible. And you kind of want to be doing the similar thing with the Mage here. You want to be just doing your own thing as much as possible. Let them build up your own board, and then instead of Spreading Plague, Mark of the Lotus, you go Frost Nova Doomsayer. Hope that clears off the board and it buys you enough time to keep on drawing cards and just finish your combo, because it is just about getting your combo as quick as you can.
And that Crazed Alchemist is going to be perfect here for one of these Doomsayers. I imagine that is the exact reason why the Crazed Alchemist is in the deck, to target situations like this. And Coldhands is going to be able to get quite a lot of value out of at least the first Doomsayer. How he deals with the second one, though, that will remain to be seen.
And so Mysterious going for a very interesting approach where the coin is one of the biggest benefits you can have as a quest mage, because it gives you a count towards getting the quest completed. But using the coin just to get the Arcanologist out there to kind of try and fight back against the Grimscale Chump as best as he could. It's an interesting line of play. It kind of worked out because he got it off the board. But this card right here in the Crazed Alchemist is going to mean that even despite his best efforts from Mysterious, the Arcanologist into the Doomsayer, he is still miles behind on the board.
And you can't even play this second Doomsayer anymore either, because it, well, I guess it's going to soak up 7 damage. So in a way it's stalling, but do you want to keep that? Do you want to keep it for later with a Frost Nova potentially?
So it's not dead on board quite yet, but any Murloc would obviously buff it. Megasaur, something like that, as you said, is essentially dead. I think you can just assume that it would be, so it's not worth throwing it down, because against Paladin, Frost Nova Doomsayer or Blizzard Doomsayer is so likely to go off. One of the only ways they can deal with it is if they have a Rallying Blade already equipped and they play Sunkeeper Tarim. Outside of that, there's very, very little they can do unless they put Crazed Alchemist in their deck, I suppose. And that's gone now. The trump card is out of the way.
But it's good to have those cards, especially in this format.
Absolutely.
It can really swing a game for you. We've seen it happen various times throughout the Premiership. We saw it when Hello Leroy was able to put the Eater of Secrets in his deck.
Oh, yeah.
Catch out Duncan. Maybe that's part of the research from Coldhands. Maybe he found some sort of tell that there's a lot of Doomsayers in Mysterious's decks. And now his homework is paying off, just like that time in GCSE history when I looked back at World War II and I came into class the next day. And do you know what the lesson was about?
What?
World War I.
No, the wrong one.
Yeah, shame really.
Ugh.
Happens to the best of us though.
I got an A in GCSE history. I was very proud of myself.
Well done, you. But seriously, well done, that's great.
Thanks.
Do you want to know what I got?
What?
I got a D.
You got a D?
Yeah, that was the only D I got at school. But it was. I got.
Just gonna let you keep on digging here, mate.
Yeah, I got A's and C's and everything else, but you know.
D's and A's.
Stop.
Okay.
A lot of power on the board now, and the polymorph being picked up is actually massive, as it does keep him slightly alive. But is he now just dead? 5, 9, 10, 11. Is there an ice block equipped? I don't know if there is. I can't see one equipped.
That's it.
If it's not equipped, that would mean Coldhands is going
just look at Coldhands' face.
all the way to the live finals here at the ESL Premiership. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause, good sir, because you deserve it. You've beaten some fantastic players on your way to the finals. Previous people who have been to the finals before, players who have won cups in various different tournaments, like Ness, he's been eliminated as well. So credit to that man. We will see you at the live finals. That's going to be amazing.
And this was a case, as we've seen a couple of times in the Premiership, where